Stop telling people to call their representatives. We don't have a functioning government. I am not sure why this is not sunk in yet for so many of y'all. We do not have a functioning government. I am an attorney who also happens to be a law professor. That means I am in conversation regularly with some of the brightest legal minds in the country. I happen to work at a law school that's ranked in the top 10% of all the law schools in the country. When I say some of the brightest legal minds, I'm talking about some of the leaders of their field. And can I tell you what the widespread consensus is among people who study, teach, and prepare the next generation of lawyers who write the scholarship that shapes the law? The general consensus among all of my colleagues is that the Supreme Court nor Congress are functional checks on executive power. Congress is inoperable. That is why they can send your calls to voicemail. They can direct aides not to respond to your calls or take your messages when you're asking about Gaza, when you're asking about confirmation votes, anything for real. They are inoperable. They are not functioning. Similarly, you know what we say about the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court is afraid to rule against Trump because they do not believe he will follow orders. And because the Supreme Court has neither sword, it cannot raise an army or a purse, it does not have the ability to allocate funds, it is premised entirely on legitimacy. Its legitimacy attribution feature and the legitimacy we attribute to it. All it has is legitimacy. The moment Trump doesn't follow one of its orders, that legitimacy, poof. So they refuse to rule in a way that they think will cause him to go against them because it'll be clear, the gig will be up, the wizard will be seen, there won't be a wizard, the curtain will be pulled. You know what the fuck I mean. You get the analogy. Anything you're trying to do that you want to be effective has to contemplate the reality that we do not have a functioning government. This is why all of the discourse around the electoral process and election, like it is delusion. It is the denial phase of grief. That is the stage we are all in collectively as a society. We are in the denial stage of grief. We are not in any form of a functioning democracy. And if we're really honest with ourselves, we haven't been for a long time, even before this man got in office. The reason he was able to get in office and has been able to exploit the levers of power the way that he has, despite having credibly fomented a coup, despite having been convicted of the amount of felonies he has, because we don't have a functioning democracy, right? And so any political engagement that you're going to undertake under the guise of resistance needs to have contemplated the reality that this government is not functioning in any way recognizable. This is why I take issue with so many Black people when they're like, but the ancestors, well, yes, the ancestors were in a completely different context, though. You cannot transplant the tactics and tools that they use mechanically into our context. And what I realize y'all don't be doing with the ancestors for real is y'all don't study the progression. The tactics that were used during Reconstruction wasn't the tactics that was used during the Civil Rights Movement, wasn't the tactics that were used during the Black Power movement. Each time they recognized something new about the government and how it was operating, and they moved differently. During Reconstruction, it was all about meshing into the patriotism, the American narrative, showing ourselves as citizens, showing ourselves as defenders of the Union, etc. When we realized that that wasn't enough to stop this country from betraying us, we engaged in civil disobedience. We took the opposite approach. We took a direct confrontational approach to the law. We challenged it. We revealed its hypocrisies. And then when we realized that wasn't going to be enough, by the end of the civil rights movement, even like mainstays like King had become more radical, in addition to the Black Power movement, which was a more radical movement that was emerging, because we realized that neither our patriotism and compliance nor our civil disobedience and challenging were going to be enough, and they escalated. And that's the movement that they used the most force to quash. And now y'all are trying to transplant those earlier tactics without acknowledging the evolution of those of that struggle, of those dynamics into our present context. No, it's time to evolve further, to use that insight and that hindsight to push past, evolve further, and become more. Similarly, as a democracy, our country is not functional or recognizable. So you trying to use the democratic levers of engagement, calling representatives and lobbying, the denial, this denial phase of grief. Let's move into anger, please.